Hey guys, welcome to the Deathlock podcast. This my name is Mike, and my co-host today will be Mill Hustles. How's it going, Mill Hustles?
Oh man, I'm all right, brother.
Gil Heyman. So, yeah, thanks again for joining in, guys. This is under some ugly circumstances, of course. Right, today is July 24th, and 2025, and today we lost an icon, the immortal Hulk Hogan. So it was tough news today, and it's been blowing up all over social media, and the wrestling world and the wrestling community has been mourning since the morning, man. So me personally, I was at work when I found the news out. One of my coworkers, sent, or not one of my coworkers, but one of my buddies who's also a wrestling fan. He sent out a text saying like, oh my god, like, I have like the biggest freaking news, and I'm like, what's going on? And he sent me the screenshot of Apple News, or an Apple News article, and I was like, no freaking way, you know what I mean? Hulk Hogan passes away at 71, and I'm just thinking to myself, damn, dude, we just lost Ozzy a few days ago, man. um let me
A
know.
lot of a
Yeah.
lot of celebrities have died this
hmm
week.
yeah, no, it's been
Crazy.
we had Chuck Mangione also pass away
Oh
today as
man, that
well.
would hurt, bro. That would
And
hurt, bro.
yeah, like I wasn't really too familiar with him, but like anyone has had to have listened to his music at some point, like whether it play like on television or a
A
movie or
hotel,
something.
an
Yeah,
elevator, or
yeah,
at a
hotel
grocery store.
elevator. Yeah, yeah. No, the guy was a famous trumpet player, and he was like what, in his 80s also.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So it's gonna be one of those streams where we're just gonna talk about the memory of Hulk Hogan, favorite memories, and accolades also, because I do want to cover a little bit of accolades as well. What he did for the business. Um, I think Hulk Hogan kind of pioneered, and was maybe like the original Forbidden Door person, if you know what I mean. Catch my drift, right? Because obviously when he started, it was the territory days, and then I think the original Vince McMahon, Vince Senior hired him in the WWW, the Triple WF, and then obviously he moved over to WWF when Vince Junior or Vincent Kennedy took over, and again, the rest is history, man. The guy was an icon. The guy transcended the business, into something that to what we see it now. Right. Like, to me, like, I grew up, I didn't start watching wrestling until 95, I think 94, 95 ish. We're not really paying attention to it too much. But even before I was like watching wrestling, I knew who he was because I had seen him in the movie Rocky 3. Um, so it's the guy who he was everywhere in the 80s and 90s. You couldn't really watch any type of movie or show without seeing some sort of an appearance of Hulk Hogan. Back then, he really was. What you would compare to like The Rock nowadays, like, right? Whoa, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, sorry, there was a little bit of echo. I don't know if that was the phone or not. Yeah, so we got Titus in the house. Titus, welcome in, man. Thanks again for joining in on the chat. By the way, he's saying I was a kid when Hulk Hogan became famous. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm 39. I know Mill Hustles is a couple of years older than me. Actually, no, we're about the same age, aren't we?
40.
You're 40, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know Tito's a little bit older. So talk to me about your memories, or anything you want to mention about Hulk Hogan, man.
Oh man, I got so much, bro. So
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, because you worked in the business, right? So, I don't know if you ever met him. I unfortunately never got to meet him at any like local events or type of con events. He didn't really come down here. I know he did come down once for a WCW show when they did it at the South Padre Island. Late 90s. I think it was like at one of the Bash at the beach events or whatever. But I unfortunately did not get to go to that event as a kid.
Man, I saw Hulk Hogan live
hmm
with my dad, rest in peace, in 19 it was 90 what 1990 91 around there,
hmm
at the Palmetto Civic Center in Palmetto, Florida, which is
Yeah.
like 30 to 45 minutes west of Tampa.
hmm
And that was the last time I went to a WWE event as a fan. Because anytime I've gone to a WWE event, it was to work somehow, not
Mm-hmm.
wrestle, but accompany somebody or do security or something.
Yep.
And yeah, man, that was. And when I went to see him live, I only went because my dad took me. I wasn't even into
Yeah.
wrestling, and I didn't really pay attention to anything. I just wanted to leave. I
Yeah.
didn't really become a wrestling fan until 1995
Mm-hmm.
because of Kevin Nash. That was my first like favorite wrestler. And yeah, and I got a pretty cool story I haven't really shared with people up until today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember his TV show Thunder in Paradise?
I do vaguely remember it. I don't remember the context of the show, but I remember the boat, the boat,
Yeah, that's what
and Hulk
everybody
Hogan.
remembers
Yeah,
is that badass
yeah,
boat.
yeah. No, I
It was a
definitely
show
do
that
remember the
it was
boat.
made by the same people as
Yeah,
Baywatch. Of
for
course, it
sure.
didn't really succeed. It was like he filmed it, I guess, between WWF,
Uh
WCW
huh.
days. But my dad worked on that boat
Oh
because
wow.
my dad used to work at Wellcraft,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad worked in receiving, so he was one of the people in charge of ordering parts for that boat.
Oh wow.
And Hogan showed up and started taking pictures with everyone, autographs. Like there's a picture with my dad and Hulk Hogan somewhere. I don't know where it
Yeah.
is. It's somewhere, but I have a hat in my closet buried somewhere of a Wellcraft hat with Hulk Hogan's signature, and you know I've
Mm-hmm.
considered getting it. What's it called when they autograph authenticated?
Yeah. Authentication. Yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm really, really gonna have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. For
But
sure,
yeah,
man.
man. I never. Other than that, I never met Hulk Hogan. We have obviously a lot of mutual friends,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad, man. I was a little torn up. Not torn up. I was a little conflicted about it
Yeah.
because I even though it was later, I did become a fan of Hulk Hogan. I love this
Yeah.
stuff. WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 18,
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania 5, 6,
Yeah.
7, and and then of course all the controversies the last decade.
Yeah.
So I started thinking like I tried to put all the negative stuff behind me, and it's like I was really sad, man.
Yeah.
Because even though he was 71 years old, he wasn't in the
Mm-hmm.
best shape. He had a lot of neck problems, back problems. Um, it's like even though in 71 he's no spring chicken,
Yeah.
but this is the most shocking wrestling death to me ever.
Yeah. Um. I mean, considering his age, I don't. I mean, I wasn't super shocked, right? Just because I know he had like neck surgery.
Surgery.
A couple months back apparently. So I don't know if he was still continuing to have complications with that. But like, you didn't really hear anything as far as the spectrum saying like that his health was like super declining. Nothing compared to like Ric Flair, because Ric Flair like almost died a couple years back, and then of course he's been battling cancer. Same thing with like Jim Ross, uh, former WWE commentator and current AEW commentator. So it's just like you see him do all these appearances. He was at the Netflix premiere show, back in January, which unfortunately, he was booed at that event. And now that I look back at it, I'm just like, I mean, obviously, I wasn't there as a fan, right? I can see why they would have booed him, right? Because they're in a heavy Democratic state where they had the event, right? And Trump, affiliated himself with the Republican Party, right? So nothing wrong with that, right? He has every right to, believe in whichever party he wants to believe in. But I definitely, I don't think I was shocked, man. But it was just kind of like, I was kind of just not feeling great at work the rest of the day, man. I was just kind of thinking about it because I'm like, damn, dude, like,
Processing it, man.
processing it because like my parents are just a couple of years older than him, right? And like, thank God that I still have my parents here with me. And they're healthy and we're still living. The fact is like, this guy, I was watching him, on my CRT TV as a kid, man. I remember renting, WWF videotapes and watching like, all of the original WrestleManias, back then when, they had VHS. Obviously once we had cable, I was watching, I didn't really see Hulk Hogan in, the WWF. I wasn't really introduced to him until WCW, right? I was familiar with him, like I said, but I really didn't, pay attention as far as wrestling goes to him until he was in WCW. And I think, there was some sort of a gap between him, leaving WWE and WCW, before he actually went to WCW. So I remember him coming in and then the whole, heel turn, right? I was like, oh man, like, I didn't really know much about Hogan back then. I just knew like he was, he was a famous good guy. And like, I was like, I don't remember how old I was. I mean, this is what, 95. When was the heel turn? It was when in 96, right?
No, the heel turn was in '96.
Okay. So
He left.
Yeah.
He left the WWF.
Yeah, I was going to say, what, 93, right?
His last televised appearance was at the King of the Ring against Yokozuna. And then he still had to do the European tour, and then he was gone. And then he debuted for WCW in '94, I think. I think he took about a year off from wrestling. He may have wrestled for New Japan.
Yeah.
In between that, I'm not sure. I got to look it up.
Yeah, no, I think there was a small stint in New Japan. That's what I'm saying. I think there was like a small gap. I don't know. I don't remember when the New Japan thing happened. It could have been in the 80s, honestly.
No, he was there. He was, I think in the 80s, he was actually in All Japan.
Yeah. Okay. All Japan. Yeah. And I know he wrestled for like territories like, AWA.
Dude, the AWA, that's where he first got over. Like when he was a heel, but people kept cheering him. And then and he was in the AWA after the Thunder Lips appearance. The thing about it is Vern Gagne, the guy that the owner of the AWA.
Yeah.
Everybody has said this. He didn't know what he had, and there were financial disputes between them, like with merch and stuff. And Hogan ended up leaving. Vince ended up taking him. Otherwise, I think wrestling would have looked real different had they kept him.
Yeah.
Had they known what to do with him, but Vince. The platform Vince had, and that's to be real, in that during that time, Vince was still trying to find his footing too. And then WrestleMania happened, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and from what I was reading earlier, I believe he main evented like the first 8 out of the 9, or first 8 of the 10 first WrestleManias, which is an incredible feat in itself, right? You know what I mean? I mean, that first generation of WrestleManias. Before ultimately leaving, right? And I have the screen up here. I don't know if you can see it or not. Accolades, right? As far as championships. People talk about John Cena and others like Ric Flair, right? But people really don't give Hulk Hogan the credit in his in his championship reigns, and not just championship reigns, but like he is still, I think, number 2 or 3 as far as like the longevity of holding the championship in the WWF, right? I think he was 3,000 or 4,000 days as champion, right? I think the only one ahead of him was Bruno Sammartino, and then I think Roman Reigns is number 3 now, or I think Roman Reigns is 4. I think Bob Backlund still has it over Roman Reigns, but correct me if I'm wrong on that or not. But
I gotta look it up. But
But yeah, check this out. Just going back to the screenshot here. Let me see if I can find it on real quick. Oh yeah, there it is. It's because I can't really see it from the Restream tab, so I have to go and click it here. But he was, let me see, and again, I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but it says he had WWF/WWE World Champion. It says 6 reigns, 7 designs. So he was a 6-time WWE champion. Definitely different designs. As far as the championship belts go.
First WWE champion.
First WWF, so that's correct. He was the first WWF champion and the last WWF champion, and then the first WWE champion, because once they transitioned from WWE to WWF, he was still holding that belt. So they end up being the first WWE champion, which is pretty crazy, right? That
I didn't know he was the first WWF champion.
Yeah, I think that's what I was reading earlier. Also, somebody correct me in that, and not, again, that's when it was Vince's company, of course, not Vince Kennedy, not Vince Jr. or Vince Senior. But anyways, going forward, as far as the company goes, I'm not talking about like his dad's company. But anyways, he was I believe a 6-time WCW World Champion also. According to this, he was also an IWGP Heavyweight Champion as well. He was an NWA Southern Heavyweight Champion, and I might be reading that wrong, but he was also a Tag Champion, a WWF Tag Team Champion. He was the first ever to do a back-to-back Royal Rumble win. So he won the 1990 and the 91 Royal Rumble, right? And obviously he is a Hall of Famer. So 2005, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which, he was, kind of at the end of his career already. And he was re-elected into the Hall of Fame with the NWO in 2020.
So he was actually he was not the first WWF champion.
Yeah,
because I'm looking here and it's saying,
was it Sheik?
They changed their name to the WWF Heavyweight Champion in 1979. Okay. So it was probably Bob Backlund.
Oh, okay, yeah, probably.
Because then it was
probably number 2, maybe.
And then Iron Sheik was a transitional champion.
Okay, so then he was the third, then probably. So that makes sense. You know what I mean?
You want to hear something crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Out of the first 9 WrestleManias, I'm looking at just the main events.
Yeah.
Only 3 of the participants are still alive.
That's crazy.
Let me run through it real quick.
So you're talking about all of the talent from the first 9 WrestleMania.
Yeah, the only ones that are still alive are
I'm trying to think,
Ted DiBiase.
Ted DiBiase, yeah. Who else?
Sergeant Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter was interviewed today, also on Busted Open. Yeah,
that's Sergeant Slaughter. Actually, shit, that's it. Sergeant Slaughter and Ted DiBiase are the only ones that are still alive.
That's pretty crazy, man.
And then you can count Yokozuna versus Hogan after Brett versus Yokozuna at WrestleMania 9. Yokozuna's gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, only 2 people out of any main event of the first 9 WrestleManias involved with Hogan are still here.
Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy is all I'm going to say, man. Let me take a look. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure the stream is looking good on YouTube here.
I'm surprised, bro. No disrespect, but I'm surprised he outlived Ric Flair. Outlived him.
Yeah, no, I was telling one of my buddies that earlier. I was like, "Oh man, you think that Ric Flair should have probably passed away at least 5 years ago already?" And he didn't, unfortunately, outlive Ric Flair. So that's kind of an interesting feat, I guess, for Ric Flair, right? But I mean, 71, right? You have to think hey, he lived a long life. He changed the business, man. I really don't think the business would be where it would be if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, man. And obviously, with McMahon at the helm, right? As far as pivoting to cable television and making him, he was the first megastar in wrestling. Would you disagree with that?
I don't know. Well, I would.
Yeah.
Because in a way, Bruno was a megastar.
Yeah.
But the thing is that with the territories, I think Hogan was the first national one.
Yeah.
But if you came to territories, they all had their megastars. The Midwest had Nick Bockwinkel. Yeah. The East Coast had Bruno. The South had Dusty Rhodes. The West Coast, I think, I don't know if it might have been Pat Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
I got to look that up because I'm not too familiar with old school West Coast wrestling. The South had the Funks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
Texas. Texas.
Yeah, Texas, the Texas territories. Yeah, so I forget what they called the one down here. What is it, Mid-South or whatever? Mid-South maybe, or I don't know. I wasn't really too familiar with it with all of the independent promotions that were going on back then. But But yeah, man, like, all iconic memories, for me, and as far as the Hulk Hogan, when I was saying like, maybe he wasn't the first megastar, right? But he was like the first one, like you said, that was like, nationally recognized, and not just nationally, but international, right? Because like, during his time, obviously he was everywhere, right? In movies, television. Obviously, he was still heavily involved in wrestling to a certain degree. So it's like, he was like the first of his, I guess, of his era to kind of break out and become like that mega star, that was in movies and television. Is what I meant. I'm sorry about that, by the way.
You
Um,
know, there was a time, and I was listening to my friend Vince Russo and Jonathan Coachman show,
mhm.
and he made a good point. He said there was a time where Hogan was probably in the 80s was probably the most famous celebrity in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and I can tell you countless people who have never watched a single wrestling match that know who Hulk Hogan is.
Hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like we said, it's a household name. Well, I'm trying to like find more stuff about Hulk Hogan. I know he's trending. What's happening? What's trending? Hulk Hogan passes away at 71. That's crazy, man. Legacy, triumphs, and tribulations. So yeah, I know. Vince McMahon also put out like a tweet earlier. Guess I'll go ahead and read this. I'm not sure exactly who posted this. This is a summary of posts on X and may evolve over time. This is an AI post, by the way. Let's take a look. I want to read it. Hopefully, I don't get taken down with this clip. Hold on. Can I click this?
So,
Maybe not.
going back real quick,
Yeah, go for it.
uh, the Iron Sheik was the last WWF champion under the NWA. So
You mean?
Hogan was the
Yeah,
first post NWA, the
yeah,
first post NWA affiliation WWF champion. So you weren't wrong.
yeah. I mean, how do you say? I think that's what I meant, right? But I meant also, I guess, like once it was away from Vince Senior is what I meant also.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, man. I know
And
Vince McMahon
also, if we're
tweeted.
technical,
Hmm.
uh, you know, Hulk Hogan won the AWA championship from Nick Bockwinkel, but during that time, throwing people over the top rope was illegal,
Hmm.
and the decision was reversed.
Bummer. Oh man, the Ric Flair video is kind of sad to see. Also, by the way, I don't know if you saw the video with Ric Flair.
Oh, I did, man.
But
I
he was
did.
bawling his eyes out, man. Like, he was saying that the him and Terry were actually like really good friends, and he was one of the ones that was there for him. Should I just play the video? Shit,
I don't want you to get a copyright strike, bro.
Well, it's Twitter.
And people were asking about that wound on Rick's head. Those are the cells that got removed.
Oh yeah, he's still recovering from his cancer, by the way. So I think he doesn't have it anymore. Luckily, that was news also. That was just posted a couple of days ago also. But like, look at how many people are posting about Hulk Hogan. Linda McMahon. I had the privilege of knowing and working with Hulk Hogan for over 40 years. Hulk was a dear friend and a member of the WWE family. His legacy in and out of the ring will always be remembered. He was one of a kind. My thoughts and prayers are with his family. So again, 1953. 2025. So he would have been 72 this year. So he was still 71, but he would have been 72. Shawn Michaels makes a post saying a legend, larger than life presence. Hulk Hogan didn't just work in the business, he transformed it. Rest in peace. And of course, he quoted Triple H's post also saying WWE would not be where it's at today without the larger than life character that competed in the ring, and few, if any, loomed larger than Terry Hulk Hogan Bollea. He was the archetype of what it meant to be a superstar. Let me just click it right. Get lost here. A superstar, a global sensation that inspired millions to work hard at whatever they wanted to accomplish, and a look that made him recognizable to fans around the world. Hulk Hogan, clad in red and yellow or NWO black and white, was simply put iconic as a real American or the leader of one of the industry's biggest factions. He transcended and elevated the entire business, which obviously is true, and not just in the U.S. but in every continent. There was no one like the Hulkster, and there will never be another. My family sends his condolences, and family and friends, man. So yeah, man, it's it's tough. A lot of people are posting about it today.
That's sad, man, because Jimmy Hart.
And Chris Jericho posted right here.
Jimmy Hart said that he was just fine yesterday. So I'm thinking that somebody told Jimmy Hart that Hulk was good.
Yeah, that, or I saw like a video that was posted somewhere also, and internet, is just the internet, right? I don't believe it, but that the interview that was shown was of him yesterday, talking about like his new wrestling promotion that he was doing with Eric Bischoff. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, he didn't look that bad in the video. He was kind of sporting like the blackish beard again. You know what I mean? So I was just like, man, like, he looked good to me, obviously. But let's see. We got Chris Jericho saying, when I started in WCW, I had the pleasure of meeting one of my childhood heroes. Then years later in WWE, I had a blast with him, entertaining millions the same way he had entertained me for many years. Thank you for everything, Hulkster. You paved the way for all of us. Please say your prayers and eat your vitamins, everybody. You just never know. Yeah. So, I mean, Chris Jericho obviously got to work with him in his early career in WCW. Donald Trump Jr. made a post about him. Obviously, he would, like I said, he was a big Trump supporter.
I mean, not even that, bro. Him and Donald were friends forever.
Yeah,
bro.
no, they've known each other for years. Let's see, Ric Flair. Again, he made a tweet also 10 hours ago, but we saw a little bit of the video. You could go watch the video. He's just, he was bawling his eyes out. He's taking it very hard, right? Like, and it for good reason, right? Like I said, this guy he helped transform the business into what he was. Titus over here saying he was the WWE's greatest showman. I agree. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people put Cena up there, right? But before there was Cena and before there was Austin, there was Hulk Hogan, man. And he, like I said, it takes a lot to just be a top guy of one company, right? But he was the top guy of two companies, man. He was the top guy for WWE, and then when he transitioned over to WCW, he was the top guy there. Now, of course, one can speculate, or one might say, hey, he politicked his way into being the top guy in the WCW, right? But he was still on top of the world, like as far as the wrestling world, when he was in WCW as well. So, and of course,
hey, you know what, man? It's sad.
Yeah.
His final how his final WWE appearance was.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that his last match was in TNA.
Yeah, I know TNA did like a tribute for him at the beginning of the show. I was only like about a minute, so but definitely a lot of wrestlers pouring their hearts out on social media about Hulk Hogan is passing. Looks like we got about 4 people in the house, guys. If you guys can share your memories down here, with Hulk Hogan in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, definitely share your favorite memory about Hulk Hogan, right? One of mine as a kid, I guess, was when he was already in the NWO, man. Like one thing that I really enjoyed about Hulk Hogan was his entrance, man, because you had the NWO music, but then Hulk Hogan came out to what seemed to be a Jimi Hendrix song, which was what was it called? Purple Haze, right? I believe. And I think they did it to the point where I guess they wouldn't get sued. It sounded almost very similar to Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze, the guitar solo and everything like that. That was like literally one of my favorite entrances as a kid watching, because when he was the world champion, man, Hulk Hogan made that big belt look good, man. Like he was there's that title looked good on a lot of wrestlers, man. But like, I don't know, like it's iconically to me, like that was Hogan's championship belt, man, because he always had it. And you know, I don't know if you remember when he would do his entrance, he would hold the belt like if he was like, you know, playing it like a guitar.
Oh yeah.
So that's like very classic. That's why, you know, I chose the thumbnail that I chose for this video was him holding the WCW title and him being interviewed by Mean Gene, because those two were like a dynamic duo, not just in WCW but in WWE also, right? Before they, you know, either of them left the WWF at the time. And you really couldn't have one without the other. I think, you know,
Man, you couldn't have Hogan without
yeah,
Mean Gene. You
yeah,
couldn't have Hogan without Jimmy Hart.
yeah.
You couldn't
Jimmy
have
Hart also.
Hogan without Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, Bobby Heenan also. Yeah,
Ted DiBiase, Roddy Piper,
yep. You know,
Andre. Yeah, man. And you
Hall
saw
and
how many
Nash.
of them left with him to WCW.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. And you know, we see it now, right? With, you know, AEW and WWE, we're like, okay, like, you know, WWE star gets, you know, um, fired or released from their contract, and you know, they end up in AEW, right? Well, I don't even remember the circumstances of why Hogan left WWE. I think it was just a money issue, wasn't it? You know, he wasn't getting paid
I think he
what
was
he wanted.
he was also burned out.
Oh yeah, burned out. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
no,
there may have been a money and creative dispute, but also, man,
yeah,
you got to remember that Hogan, like in '93, and some parts. I don't think he was there in '92. He was doing television, but in '93,
yeah,
man, they started booing him.
yeah.
You know, it's like, how can we miss you if you won't go away?
Mm-hmm.
And in WCW, you know, he started getting booed more and more. You can hear it on the pay-per-views, especially.
Yes.
And he needed to do something, so he turned heel.
Yeah.
And that really, really flipped wrestling upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that heel turn, man, they were comparing Cena's to it, and I
Yeah.
agree
No.
at the beginning, but
Mm-hmm.
after the actual heel turn, it's been nothing like Hogan's.
Yeah. Yeah, because Hogan's heel run was like how many years? Like what? Like 4 or
It
5
was like
years?
4 years, 4 or
Yeah,
5
4
years.
or 5 years. I know he did turn face eventually before the demise of WCW, right? Again, right? You know, kind of trying to redeem himself, I guess, from the NWO and the antics that was happening, I guess, towards the end of those WCW days. But by then, I think it was too late already. But yeah, man, you know, it's definitely different. Obviously, you know, Cena is an actor now, right? You know, uh, Hogan had a lot of power in WCW, though. I think, you know, and I don't think he was there every week, like, you know, just like how John Cena wasn't there every week currently on his final run. But at the same time, it's like, you know, he was still a presence in the company when you know, NWO had that long run, the 83-week run, guys, 83 weeks. But yeah, man, I don't know. Any favorite moments or matches that you had that you may have from Hulk Hogan?
Man, I got a bunch, man.
Yeah,
You know, Hogan versus Andre, Hogan versus Warrior,
I think
Hogan
that's the
versus
highlight. Yeah,
the
yeah,
first Hogan versus Undertaker.
yeah,
You know, Hogan versus Yokozuna, Hogan
yeah,
versus uh Vader,
yeah,
Hogan versus Goldberg, Hogan versus
yeah.
Rock.
Sting
Like there's
also.
so many. Sting, Ric
Yeah,
Flair,
Sting,
Bam
Flair.
Bam Bigelow.
I mean,
Uh,
he competed with them all back in the day, man. Bret Hart,
hey,
even Bret Hart.
you know, it's funny, man, because there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, well, why didn't this person wrestle Hulk Hogan?" Well, it's like in the '80s, Hogan, like his opponents were either his size or bigger. The only exceptions were Ted DiBiase,
Yeah,
Paul Orndorff, and Paul Orndorff was pretty built too, man. But Paul Orndorff, Roddy Piper, Randy Savage, because those guys, man, those guys were large than life too,
yeah.
and those were believable opponents, even if they were a little smaller. And then Ric Flair, of course, because Ric Flair was the number two guy in wrestling.
Yeah.
Countless matches: Hulk Hogan versus Brock Lesnar, Hulk Hogan versus Triple H.
Yep. Shawn Michaels also, I believe, right?
Yep. Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels. Hulk
And we
Hogan.
can't forget WrestleMania 18 versus The Rock. I think that, to me, that was probably Hogan's most popular, maybe best match in WWE at least.
Yeah,
So
that was
not to take away from the other, but that was his most like I would say cinematic, maybe. I don't know, man, because it's
well,
like
yeah,
he went in
that's a
as a
good thing.
heel. He went
The
in as
thing,
a heel in that match, man. That's
well,
like
you got to remember, how are you going to boo a guy that was the
yeah,
biggest star in that company and hadn't
yeah,
been there in 9 years?
yeah. It's
And then he's
crazy.
going against the other top guy.
Yeah,
And then he's wrestling like a baby face, except for when he grabs a strap.
yeah,
And then he's also in Hulk Hogan's most famous arena in Montreal,
yeah,
where he wrestled the Warrior.
yeah,
How you can't boo that, man. And
yeah. No,
then,
for sure.
I think that the baby face turn, they probably said, you know what, like they probably said in the back, like, hey, you know what, this is different, and
Hmm.
there you go. I don't think he was ever a heel in the WWE again.
No, I don't think so. I don't believe so. Although it would have been nice to see a little bit of Hollywood Hogan, from time to time. But Titus asking what match would you say you enjoyed the most? Probably WrestleMania 18 versus The Rock. I mean, but like you said, like Mill Hustles was saying, like there's just so many great matches. Yet I think my favorite rivalry that he had was with Sting though.
Yeah,
Um,
the Crow.
I mean, Flair is like up there also, but like when I was watching WCW, when Sting kind of transitioned from like happy go lucky, or maybe not happy go lucky, but to the brighter colored Sting to the dark Sting, and then him kind of just like trolling it with Hulk Hogan, for like a really long time, and then him overcoming like the NWO and the big bad Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan was the guy, man, like. And I think I was mentioning this to my friend earlier. Like, I don't think that,
I was sad to see the news.
wait, what am I hearing? Are you watching a video in the background, or is that me?
Huh?
I said, were you watching a video in the background, or is that me?
Now
That
I'm
was me.
okay. My bad. I was like, I was hearing something. But okay, I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah, man, just Sting versus Hogan. That was, that was kind of like a feud that I really paid attention to in WCW. And not to say that like Goldberg and Hogan wasn't the
I
same
don't know,
thing.
man. I would compare. You talk about the cinematics of it,
Yeah,
the reaction. I would
yeah,
put Rock versus Gold versus Hogan and Goldberg versus Hogan probably very close,
yeah.
because that show,
Hmm.
I saw it live, Nitro,
Yeah,
and that they were still going back and forth with Raw, the Monday Night Wars, and they won that night.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they
I
won
think
that night.
that was the start of that 83 long week thing probably.
No, that was like towards the end of it.
Towards the end of it, damn. All right. Joys of the San Joaquin Valley says, "Hey B Tech, where is Tito? What's up, Joys? Tito is taking the night off, man. We got Mill Hustles, aka Gil Heyman over here, taking a spot tonight. We are talking about the death of Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, man. If you have any memories of Hulk Hogan as a kid growing up, maybe." Please share your thoughts. I'll go ahead and read them on the screen. I'm sure you heard the news that Terry Hulk Hogan passed away today, man. So we're just kind of talking about like memories and things here and there, about his career.
You
Definitely
all
don't
know
want.
something crazy, bro?
What's up?
That today is the 10-year anniversary of that tape coming out.
Of okay, this I think I remember hearing about this earlier. Which tape are you talking about
The
specifically? The
the one where he said the bad words,
Oh,
and
okay, the one about
he
his daughter's
boyfriend,
boyfriend. Okay,
but it
yeah.
was also that SEX tape,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
that's all the same thing apparently.
yeah. Okay, well, I probably the audio came from that tape, but I know it was not something that he wanted to be out in the public. I suppose, right? He
I
was,
don't think he knew he was being
yeah,
recorded.
and he was, a lot of the stuff was said behind closed doors, whether he meant it or not, right? Obviously, it's not. I guess we can get into that now, right? That it's been kind of known that he's made some racist slurs, in the past, and there's wrestlers like Booker T that were just not like cool with Hulk Hogan, right?
Yeah,
And not just wrestlers, but like the black community, right? The African American community. kind of
No,
lost a lot
man,
of
and
respect.
I understand them being upset because he had a lot of black fans.
Yeah, he did, and not
You
just
know,
fans. And like when you say stuff like that, it's not, it doesn't, to me, like, it just doesn't affect, like, that one specific race. But obviously there's a lot of different colored people, in the United States, right? You have Latinos, you have Asians, you have Indians, or Hindus. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's different colors everywhere, but a lot of people lost respect for him because of it, right? So the last 10 years hasn't, it's been kind of up and down for Hulk Hogan in the media, right? He hasn't been painted in a good picture, right?
yeah,
Especially,
and a lot of black wrestlers, not wrestlers, fans, wrestlers who were fans,
yeah,
I have all said they were very, very conflicted. I was too.
yeah, yeah.
Like
I mean, I think we all were, you know what I mean? I also think that, I'm just gonna, say it here, right? But he grew up in a different generation, right? And so did my parents, right? I feel like my parents kind of have some sort of like the same mentality when it comes to, races and everything like that. They're from that boomer generation, and they were raised by people that might have rubbed that off on them as they were growing up. And not to say like, hey, that's hey, you're a grown up, you can decide whatever you want, whatever. They grew up in different eras, right? He might have gone through stuff that made him maybe not like a different race, right? I don't know, like I didn't grow up in his shoes, right? Obviously that they were brought up during that whole segregation and whatnot, during that time, during those eras. So I mean, I can't speak for him,
yeah,
obviously. I can only speak for myself. But obviously the comments that he made, and not just because obviously I think his daughter was also either dating or married a black man. I'm not 100% sure, but I know because of those remarks, his daughter basically like disowned him or stopped talking to him
for a
because
long
of it.
time.
I don't know if they rekindled the relationship
They
prior to him
did.
passing away.
They did.
But
But here's the thing too, man. Like
mhm,
and another thing to bring up though, besides that, is
mhm,
all the outlandish claims he made.
mhm.
Like saying, "Oh, Jimi Hendrix wanted to recruit him, Michael Jackson," like all this crazy stuff that like the dates were all wrong.
Yeah,
Um, at one point I thought he was just trolling,
yeah, mhm,
but like some people, like one thing that I didn't like, and I'll stand on, I'll be on Hogan's side about this is when he was telling people, "Oh no, I'm okay, I'm fine, nothing's wrong." And they're like, "Oh, another Hogan lie," but it's like, I understand why he would lie about that. He don't want to worry people.
yeah. I think a lot of
There's
people.
enough stuff in the world to be worried about now.
Yeah, I mean, if he knew how bad his health was, I definitely think that some people deserve the privacy of what's happening with your own health and your body. And if he knew he was sick, you know what I mean.
I mean, people like Eric Bischoff said
Mhm,
on his last podcast episode
mhm,
of 83 Weeks
yeah,
last week,
yeah,
he said, "I don't know, and it's none of my business." Like he
yeah,
kept it away from even his closest friends.
yeah. And
Because,
that's the
like I
thing,
said a little,
maybe
like
he.
I mentioned, people
Mhm.
have enough to worry about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Maybe maybe some of his close friends did know what was going on. Maybe Bischoff and Flair knew what was happening, but they're not going to say anything, right? I'm sure Terry Bollea confided in them, what was happening possibly, and true friends will keep their mouth shut and won't leak anything to the media about what's going on, and maybe he just wanted to die, and that was it, you know what I mean. Maybe, like I said, maybe there was complications from his neck surgery and this things were not going good,
Oh,
and
the guy had like 15 back surgeries.
yeah,
He was in pain all the
yeah,
time, and he
yep,
lived a long time. 71,
yeah,
you're lucky to live that long. And if he ever felt like if the pain ever made him feel like he just wanted to go, I don't blame him. Hell, I feel like that sometimes being diabetic. Like I'm just tired, bro. I'm only 40, but I've lived
yeah.
a long time, and
Hey, 40
oh
years is
goodness,
long. People don't realize, we're old, man.
yeah,
Yeah, like I always tell people when I'm at work, like, hey, I'm 39. They're like, you're 39, like you're still so young. I'm like, oh, I work with a bunch of like 21, 22-year olds. I'm like, guys, just wait until you're my age. Like when you guys are my age, I'm gonna be in my like late 50s by then. God
yeah.
willing, I'm still here, right? But But I'm
Same,
like,
man. Same. I mean, when my daughter graduates high school, God willing, we're still here.
yeah.
I'll be 58 years old.
Yeah, man. So yeah, if I ever have kids, who knows? That might not be for me until I'm in the. I might not be able to see my kids graduate until I'm in my 60s probably. So knock on wood, we'll see if that ever happens. But Joys of the Joaquin Valley says Hulk was famous from the time I was a kid, 1976 to 1995. Titus says interesting. He only made 25 million. 25 million. What, like, was that his net worth, or I don't know what Hulk Hogan's net worth was over his period. I really don't look too much into that stuff.
I tell you what, though, man, since we're talking money,
Yeah.
that guy Hogan had one of the most insane WCW contracts ever. Like, you
I'm
should
sure.
look it up. It's an interesting read. That man was paid.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I-
No, I believe it.
I look up that contract one day, like, take like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and like it didn't matter how bad a shape WCW was in, Hogan was good.
Yeah. Well, he was getting that Turner money, so
And he would have never ever gotten that from Vince. And Vince took care of him. Don't get me wrong, but he would have never got that from Vince.
Yeah. That's understandable, but again, that's when the company was owned by the broadcast network, not by a separate entity that was working with a broadcast network. I think that was the difference. But anyways, going back to Joy's comment here, if someone comes to California with the Triple K ideology, they will not be alive to see their next birthday. So I can't tell you how far in the woods Hogan was when it came to his ideology, when it came to stuff like that. I don't know. I can't paint that picture because it really wasn't out there, right? Obviously he made comments, but I think he after then apologized as well. And
but honestly, like,
Mhm.
what if he would have, I think and nobody's going to do this, bro. Let's be real. Nobody's going to admit to the horrible things they've said or done until they get caught.
Yeah, and like, check this out. Joy's saying B-Tech is too old to be crashing motorcycles. Your body cannot take the abuse. Joy's, I'm not near any motorcycles anymore, buddy. Believe me. Okay, so the only time I'll have an accident is if I meet a toxic girl. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. But anyways, yeah, man, crazy.
Hey, give me a second. I'll be right back.
All right, we'll continue to read some of the tweets here from the Twix app over here. So Donald J. Trump also made mention saying we from the White House saying we lost a great friend today. The Hulkster Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way, strong, tough, smart, with the biggest heart. He gave an absolutely electric speech at the Republican National Convention. That was one of the highlights of the entire week. He entertained fans from all over the world, and the cultural impact he had was massive. To his wife, Sky, and family, we give our warmest, best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan, will be greatly missed. I mean, Hulk Hogan passes away 10-year anniversary after his racist recordings. The wrestler has since apologized 8 years ago. I used offensive language during a conversation. It was unacceptable for me to have used that offensive language, and there's no excuse for it. So I do believe in redemption, guys. Like, when people apologize for stuff, especially like that, you know what I mean? I believe that people can be redeemed in some ways. Some people might not take an apology, right? But he apologized for his remarks. Are you back? I can hear something in the background.
Yep.
Okay, I can understand, like I said, the circumstances, maybe who knows, man, maybe Hogan was drunk, maybe when he said it, something to along those lines, I don't know. I do know though that, and I've heard this from several other sources already, that he was a very devout Christian, man. Even Ric Flair was saying that he was always calling him, talking to him about like Bible scriptures and stuff like that. So the fact that he was very in touch, with his Christianity, him, with God, his affection with heaven and God, all that, I think that makes me look at him in a higher picture to some degree, right? Even though I'm not super religious myself, right? You know what I mean? Like to to find God, at any age. Again, I don't know exactly, how he was growing up or whatever, but apparently towards the end, like he was very like Christian. Um, let's see. Hopefully, his daughter carries on his legacy. I don't know exactly how his daughter would carry on his legacy. I mean, his son or his daughter are definitely not going to be wrestling anytime soon. Imagine Brooke Hogan, coming to the WWE. That would be crazy. Yeah, so this is a good one that Joy's saying. I believe in redemption also. As humans, we all have faults. I mean, look at it. He was the biggest. I mean, I'm just going to say it, right? He was the biggest wrestling star of all time, right? He's like the Jordan of basketball, right? Hulk Hogan, right? A lot of
people have compared him more to
yeah.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth, okay.
But I don't know much about Babe Ruth, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a different time also because, like, Babe Ruth was considered one of the greatest hitters of all time, for baseball. I from what the comparisons I've heard is Jordan and Hulk, because Jordan was like the NBA, Hulk Hogan is wrestling, right? When you think of wrestling, doesn't matter what company, TNA, New Japan, WWE, AEW, we're just not, how do you say, you're gonna think about Hulk Hogan and the impact that he left, and how many, not just that, but like how many lives he affected, right? All the people he wrestled, all the people he knew backstage, things like that, right? I think he also, like, I think Ric Flair said that that Hulk Hogan had let him money one time also. I don't exactly remember when. I think it was like in the early 2000s or maybe late 90s for something. I forgot what he lent him money for, but he's like, I'll never forget that he lent me money.
Probably taxes.
Maybe taxes or something. I remember reading something about it earlier, but I'm just like, yeah, we all have faults, man. Nobody's perfect, right? Definitely Hulk Hogan was not perfect, but I definitely believe that he was he definitely the face of wrestling. I mean, come on, who could forget like that face, man? Like the pictures are up over here, guys. Hulkamania. I had a little plushie that my cousin gave me for Christmas this past year that I posted on social media. And I don't have a lot of memorabilia of Hulk Hogan, but I do remember, like, growing up, I had a Hulk Hogan shirt, I had a Hulkamania shirt, and growing up also, like, my neighbors, they had those little what do they call them, the brawlers, the ones that kids, the ones that are made out of like the pillow material where you can wrestle with or whatever, the little wrestling buddies. I remember a few of my neighbors had Hulk Hogan, and I was like, when we would go over to their houses, we would play and we would like beat those things up, in their rooms. We would throw them against the wall. We would we would give them elbow drops on the beds, you know what I mean, for fun. So, I definitely like a household name growing up, man. I don't believe kids in this era will appreciate, obviously, the Gen Zers and after, obviously, probably don't know or will appreciate Hulk Hogan for what he did for the business. But, I'm hoping, that people will, do their own research and, watch matches and watch the history of wrestling and go from there. Joyce is saying, let's see what Joyce is saying. Maybe his daughter was with someone that he was not fond of. I hope it was not based on gender, race. Yeah, he did make a comment on the race. I mean, he did say the N word like several times. And that leaked video or audio that he was saying. So, like I said, he apologized for it, and we move on, right? WWE took I think they ended their contract with him or something like that. That was when 2015, right? You said,
yeah.
And then like not too long later, like they brought him back up, and he came back. So definitely. He redeemed himself in some ways, so like I said, not everyone's going to agree with it, right? But at the end of the day, right, Hulk Hogan was, he was a draw. He was a moneymaker for the company also, right? One thing I did want to mention, right, and I know this is kind of a little off topic, but apparently Tony Khan, AEW, has not really recognized
I noticed that.
any tribute. But apparently also, like, again, Tony Khan was very on the side of, like, the comments that he made years ago. So I'm actually shocked that AEW, which is basically WCW 2.0 if you look at it, right? Obviously a little more hardcore. Maybe it's like a mix of WCW and ECW for today's viewers. Definitely Tony Khan. I don't think that's the right thing. you know, maybe not him make you know, a post, but maybe the company itself saying like, hey, you know, we recognize Hulk Hogan passed away. You know, he was big in the wrestling world, obviously. You know, say something, right? So I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm interested to see how WWE pays tribute. You know, like we were talking about earlier, his last event was on Netflix, the first Netflix show for WWE when they moved over from the USA Network. So here's a story also, man. So I don't know if you remember, I went to a Saturday night's main event back in like late January also. Earlier in the year, it was in San Antonio. He was actually supposed to be at that event. Apparently they had promoted him to be at the event to come out and, you know, do maybe that stupid beer thing or whatever he was promoting. But I guess things changed. I guess I don't know what happened. He ended up being at his son's wedding or something like that. I don't exactly know what happened with that. But I was telling one of my buddies that I went to the show with, I was like, man, dude, like, I've never been able to see Hulk Hogan live wrestle or anything like that, but it would have been cool, like, just being in the same arena and building with him, you know what I mean? And just feeling the presence and aura that he, you know, he left, you know, for the wrestling world. You know, I thought that would have been pretty cool, man. But unfortunately, I'll never be able to say that now. You know, I'll never be able to say, hey, I got to shake Hulk Hogan's hand or anything like that, you know. So it kind of bummed me out. I think that's what I was thinking about earlier today. And I was just like, man, dude, like, you know, I mean, I haven't really gone to like a lot of cons recently where I've met wrestlers, but, you know, I've met a handful of wrestlers over the years, you know, in my podcasting and in my radio days. I've met Kurt Angle. I've met, you know, Carlito. Who else? You know, Ted DiBiase. I met Al Snow. I've met Scott Hall. I met Rey Mysterio. You know, another, like, you know, the few more names. Lita. You know, whoever else. Sting. I met Sting also. But, you know, I never got to meet Hulk Hogan, man. So, you know, it kind of just sits with me now. Like, man, dude, like a childhood. I don't know if I could say the word hero, but someone that, you know, you kind of like idolized growing up a little bit, you know, is now gone. And that, you know, a part of you kind of dies with it in a way. Any comments, Mill Hustles? Am I hello?
Nah, man, I think I got nothing else, brother.
Speaking of Sting, Hulk Hogan, the greatest of all time. Can't thank you enough for all that you did for me and the wrestling fans over the world. I love you and I will miss you. My friend Terry Bollea, R.I.P. That is a good that's a good shot of them. I think that was probably more towards the end of the WCW days when Hogan, you know, went back to face. You know, he got out of his Hollywood Hogan shtick and you know, I don't know what match that was from or if they were tag teaming, but let's take a look. Nick Aldis says the industry lost a man today that redefined what success could look like in the pro wrestling. This post is to acknowledge Hulk Hogan's contributions to the industry, which are difficult to put into adequate words. Terry Bollea made personal choices that earned him understandable criticism, but I'm not here to weigh in on that. As someone who has put food on the table from pro wrestling for 20 years, I believe it's necessary to take a moment to recognize the importance of Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania to our business. He pulled the wagon and brought a ton of people with him. Brought wrestling into the cable TV era, changed the game for the way performers could monetize their talent. Put simply, he showed us what was possible. Also, he represents my childhood and millions of others. That deserves recognition in itself. Yeah, so definitely, that's a good little picture. I don't remember if I had any wrestling. I don't remember if I had any Hogan figures growing up. You know, because you know, Hogan was the bad guy, so I was like more like I was always buying like, you know, like figures for like face, you know, wrestlers when I was a kid. So definitely regret not buying any Hogan figures now, man.
I guess I actually ordered one, and I ordered a Hollywood Hogan figure before everybody else grabbed them, and I also ordered a trading card from 1987 that I found at a really good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I had to snatch it up. But one more thing before we wrap up. It looks like Real American Freestyle is going to continue.
Yes. Yeah, so that is the company that I believe Hulk Hogan and Eric Bishop with a third party are trying to bring up, which it's not wrestling like what we see as pro wrestling, but it's definitely something that he was in the works on, and definitely I hope the promotion is dedicated to him in some way. Um, I'll definitely check it out, even if it's not something I watch on a consistent basis, but we'll see, man. But here's an awesome photo of Hulk Hogan, man. Again, he did pave the way for what we see now, man. Again, I don't think Cena, would it be Cena without a Hulk Hogan? The Rock definitely wouldn't be a Rock without the Hulk Hogan. As far as like them being in the acting industry, right? Again, I feel like he broke barriers, man. He was one of those first people to come out and TV movies, from the wrestling world, and we did see other people come out in movies, guys like Roddy Piper. Who else from that era was coming out like in movies and stuff like that? Mr. T. I was like, was he even an actor? Was he an actor before he got into like wrestling and boxing? I don't even know, honestly.
Yeah, he was. A-Team.
Yeah, there you go. A-Team. I forgot about that. Yeah. But anyways, obviously, I don't know, man. It's crazy, man. It's been a crazy day, man. Ozzy, losing Ozzy also, which, definitely a huge loss for the music world. Chuck
Man,
Berry also, man.
And that picture you see there, that little cartoon to your right,
to
the right of the picture of Hogan, man, that kind of, they did something similar for The Undertaker when he hung up his hat.
Yeah.
So it's like, damn.
Yeah, man, it hits hard, man. I mean, I wouldn't say that I didn't chuckle up earlier today, like a couple of times, right, thinking about it, because I'm like, damn, dude, like, he was such an iconic figure. It's just a guy that you didn't think was gonna, pass away or anything like that. So, here are the three people that did pass away. Of course, they're losing.
Theo, that one hit me really hard too.
Yeah, I didn't really watch the Cosby Show too much growing up, but I am aware of this. The actor Malcolm Jamal Warner, also very young, man, 1970, man. He was only a few years older than my sister. I believe he was in his early 50s, mid 50s, 55, I believe. Yeah. So crazy. Ozzy, man, Ozzy coming off his concert just literally a few weeks ago, also, man, and for that to happen, it's heart-wrenching, man. I mean, a lot of our childhood, legends are slowly dying off, man.
What's crazy, man? 2 days ago, Hulk Hogan's biggest fan died also.
Really? Who was
that? A guy named Roddy Hogan.
Roddy Hogan? Oh, like he took his surname or what?
Yeah, like he dressed like Hulk, went to a lot of the events. There's countless pictures of them together.
Oh, wow.
And he died 2 days ago, so that's another shocker.
That's crazy.
And that's a guy that I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
look at this photo of Hulk Hogan dropped, or how do you say, giving Kurt Angle the boot, man. This is what I don't know if this is a house show or pay-per-view or what, but man, look at Hogan. He had to be in his late 50s at this point. Look at the shape he was in, man. I think one thing that a lot of people can recognize him for was his physique. He was obviously a lot bigger when he first started. I think it was like a 300-pounder back in the day, man. He did lose a lot of weight, after he left WWF to WCW. There was a little bit of a transformation.
Slim down,
yeah, he did slim down a little bit, but then he started kind of bulking, getting back into better shape. You know what I mean? So, Michael Irvin over here, former Dallas Cowboy, you're just going to see posts, countless posts of Hulk Hogan. There is footage of them pulling his body out. I don't even want to look at that.
I don't think that's real.
You don't think that's real? No, I think it is real. I think I did see that somewhere earlier. But either way, I don't want to show that here. That's just to me. This one was a good one. Also, when Kane was,
hulking up.
I don't want to use the audio, but Kane was hulking up. That was a good one. Also, him at the national convention last year, supporting his, his rights over here. Let's see. I mean, just a lot of love for Hulk Hogan, honestly.
And hate, unfortunately.
Yeah, love and hate. Unfortunately, he's gonna get it. I think when it comes down to it, though, definitely, people are gonna have their opinion, but we can't. You just can't forget what he did for the business, man. Because again, like you're not gonna you're never going to see a star like this again, right? It's just not going to happen. I think he changed the way the industry is.
Yeah, man. I think the days of mega stars on that level, we're
Yeah,
never gonna see
it's
that again.
I mean,
And I'm sorry, I'm a big Roman Reigns fan, but Roman
yeah,
Reigns is not as big as The Rock, Cena for that matter, Hogan, Austin.
yeah,
Like, I'm sorry, bro. Well, I don't think we'll ever see a mega star like any of those names I mentioned again.
yeah. I mean,
You know,
it's
and
true.
I was talking like, how wrestlers get a lot of hate. And I think that has to do a lot with kayfabe.
Yeah,
You know, people like now think that if someone's a prick on TV, that's how they are in real life. So they attack them personally,
yeah.
you know?
No, like we said, it's understandable, man. Let's see. Joyce the Joaquin says Hulk Hogan also did a TV show. I remember the intro, a green island to the side of the water with Hulk Hogan driving a fast speedboat. Yep, we were talking about that earlier. Mill Hustles shared a story about the boat that he was saying that his dad actually got to work on that speedboat.
Yep.
So,
Have to order
small world.
parts. So he had that, ordering particular parts. That's a significant role, man. Um, Also, look up Hogan's commercials. They're pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, commercials forever.
Yeah, for sure. I don't remember the show. I'm sure they are going to do something special for SummerSlam. Maybe. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know the way like things are now in the
They
media.
gotta be very careful how they approach
Yeah,
it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the office is like, oh shit.
yeah,
Like this right here, like honestly, this has overshadowed anything happening in wrestling. Like
yeah,
like if you would have brought up any headline I read a couple hours ago,
yeah,
not having to do with Hulk, I'd be like, I forgot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a huge loss. I think it's like I mean, definitely didn't expect it, man. I was hoping that Hogan would have at least lived until his 80s, right? Um, but it's just been kind of again when my friend sent me that, and then I forward as soon as I saw it, I was like, I gotta forward this
Oh,
to
dude, let me tell you, man.
Gil and
My phone
yeah,
was ringing
yeah,
nonstop. Phone calls, texts,
hmm
DMs, like it was
yeah,
nonstop for like 2 hours.
yeah. The first
And
couple of
I
hours
missed
I was
them
on
all
there.
because I had my phone on when I'm at work.
Yeah,
I usually have my phone on do not disturb,
yeah.
so
So what was the message I sent you? One of the first ones you saw or no?
it was I think it was the second one, or it may
Yeah,
have came at the exact same time my brother told me about it. But then as
gotcha.
soon as I was reading the messages, I got that's when the phone calls started pouring in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely will never be forgotten, man. I mean, I think we all will remember something about Hulk Hogan and his legacy, and that that stamped out in the wrestling industry. Um, a shame that I never got to see him wrestle live or anything like that. I've even gotten to see Ric Flair wrestle, I think, once in my lifetime. Shawn Michaels as well. I got to see Undertaker wrestle at one of our house shows. Wrestlers that I never really got to see that I would have loved to see were like guys like Bret Hart, Owen Hart as well. Um, Ironically, I think I got to see Chris Benoit wrestle like once or twice. No, not to mention that name, but I mean, I think I did get to see them wrestle like at a house show. I never got to see Eddie Guerrero, unfortunately, wrestle. Let's see. I got to see Brock Lesnar wrestle once at the Rumble 2023. But yeah, man, I don't know. Any final comments, man? I don't want to keep you too long. We're already about an hour in.
Do we have time for any rapid fire tech talk?
Rapid fire what? Tech talk?
Tech,
You want to talk
yeah.
about tech? We're not even on the tech channel. This is the DLP channel, bro. Yeah, I think. Well, if you want to mention something, you can. If not, it's all.
We the store I work at, because we use this thing called Vita Pay to take payments.
Yeah.
And we ordered like 5 Moto G Powers from 2023. They costed us $40
For all 5?
40 a piece.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
And we activated 2 of them on the $50 plan, so we got the cost of the phone back as a spiff. And then we also got a spiff for selling a particular plan, and it turns out the phones are unlocked.
Oh wow.
So they're unlocked. We basically got them for free, and they're fully unlocked.
Nice. So you can activate them on any service
except AT&T.
Oh, okay. Yeah, AT&T I hear has been kind of a pain.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, guys.
Well, I'm out of here, brother. I got to get up early tomorrow. I got to work both jobs the next 3 days.
All right, man. We'll go ahead and close it out, man. All right. Thanks again for joining in, Mill Hustles.
All right. Later.
All right. Take it easy, man. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you all for joining in on the Deathlock podcast as we remember Terry Gene Bollea, Hulk Hogan, born 1953, passed away this morning, 2025, July the 24th. May he rest in peace. Condolences to his family and close friends. And to all of the wrestling fans that are grieving, I definitely will be thinking about this death, not just today, but, going forward. Being a wrestling fan, definitely will think about Hogan and his feats in the company and how it affected the business, over the last 30 years. I mean, not just 30 years, 40 years, right? Since the early 80s, right? So you kind of have to look at that. We'll see how that goes. But anyways, guys, thanks again for tuning in. If you guys have any favorite wrestling moments, if you watched all the way, if you have any favorite Hulk Hogan moments, please post them in the chat below. We would really appreciate that, guys.